Hi all my dear students, welcome to Sri Jendra Rank Zone classes and I am your science faculty Amit Ajmani, and in today's lecture we'll continue up the chapter control and coordination. Now we have started the chapter in the previous class in which we discussed the process of control and coordination taking place in plants. We saw that there were phytohormones which were responsible for the process of control and coordination in plants. We also studied about the various tropic movements and the nastic movements. And in today's lecture, we'll be discussing about how the process of control and coordination takes place in animals. Now, in animals, we have got two complex systems called the nervous system and the endocrine system, which is also called the hormonal system. So these two systems are responsible for the process of control and coordination in animals. And we need to study both the systems one by one. First of all, taking the nervous system. Now, in the body of animals, there are three divisions of this nervous system. One is the central nervous system, also abbreviated form written as CNS. It consists of brain and spinal cord. Another one is the peripheral nervous system, written as PNS in the abbreviated form, and it consists of cranial and spinal nerves. The third type of system is our autonomic nervous system or ANS, which is further of two types, sympathetic and parasympathetic. We need to study the central nervous system in a bit of detail. Now, this central nervous system consists of brain, spinal cord, and nerves. We'll be studying about each one of them. First of all, talking about the nerves. We know that nerves are made up of nerve cells, and those nerve cells are also known as neuron. Now, these neurons or nerve cells are the largest cells of our body, and this is how exactly a typical neuron looks like. Now, in this neuron, we need to understand the various parts of a neuron. These neurons, they carry the messages throughout our body from one part to the another in the form of electrical impulses, and these electrical impulses are taken by dendrites. Now, from these branches called dendrites, the electrical impulses go to the cell body where we have got the cytoplasm and the nucleus, and from the cell body, which is also known as cyton, this electrical impulse will pass through this long axon. Now, over this axon, we have got a myelin sheath, which is for insulation and for protection. And through axon, these electrical impulses pass to the nerve endings. This is how information in the form of electrical impulses is passed from the dendrites to the nerve endings. Now, after this nerve endings, we will have the dendrites of another neuron, and from these nerve endings, the information will be passed to the dendrite of another neuron through a microscopic gap between them. This microscopic gap is called synapse. Quite important. What is synapse and what are the functions of synapse? Synapse is a microscopic gap between the nerve endings of one neuron and the dendrite of another neuron. In this synapse, we have certain chemicals called neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters will help in conduction of these electrical impulses. And this synapse helps in the unidirectional flow of information. You need to relate which part of neuron receives information, that is the dendrite. What is the actual path taken by the information from dendrites to cell body to axon to the nerve endings and then to the dendrite of the next neuron. we need to relate the function of synapse, the microscopic gap between two neurons. So let us try to relate the details. Synapse, as we already studied, it is a small gap between two neurons. It helps in the unidirectional flow of information from the nerve endings of one neuron to the dendrites of the another neuron. At the end of the axon, the electrical impulse sets off the release of some chemicals called neurotransmitters, and these chemicals cross the synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in dendrite of the next neuron, due to which the information flows throughout our body. So synapse actually acts like one-way valves because the chemical substance is present at only one side of the gap, and hence it helps in the unidirectional flow of information. So this is about our neuron. Now, one important thing we need to know is reflex actions. Now, what exactly happens is that whenever we feel anything with the help of our sense organs, we know that we have got sense organs. Those sense organs are also known as receptor organs. There are various receptors present in our body. What are all types of receptors? One are the photoreceptors. Next are the phonoreceptors. Third one are the olfactoreceptors. Then we have thermoreceptors and gustatory receptors. These are the five type of receptor organs we have got, and these are the five sense organs. The photoreceptors are for light, which is our eyes. Phono are the sound, which is our ear. Olfacto is for smell, our nose. Thermo relates to temperature, which is felt through our skin. And gustatory are the tastes which are present in our tongue. So eyes, ears, nose, skin and tongue, these are our five sense organs. Information from these receptor organs is taken, and through nerves this information is traveled to spinal cord. From spinal cord this information is taken to brain, which interprets the information and passes the order which is delivered to the spinal cord, and from spinal cord this order is delivered to the effector organs, which will ultimately respond. These are our muscles, which are going to respond. They are going to contract, because of which we'll make some kind of response movements. Now, the information which is taken from the receptor organs to the spinal cord, it is carried through sensory nerves. And the information from spinal cord to the effector organs is carried by motor neurons or motor nerves. And there are third type of neurons which are called relay neurons. They actually help in the transfer of information between the brain and spinal cord. So these are the three type of neurons. But there are certain times when the decision has to be made quickly, when the response has to be given quickly. In such cases, the path of the information taken is called reflex arc, and that action is called reflex action. So what exactly is the path of information, or what exactly is reflex arc? Let us see. For example, if our hand or the skin touches a hot plate, now this is a stimulus. This information is carried through sensory neurons to the spinal cord, right? Now, the spinal cord, without actually sending this information to brain, it takes the decision and passes that decision to the motor neurons, making the muscles to contract. This information is taken by motor neurons to the muscles, which are our effector organs. These muscles, after getting the order, will contract, due to which we will pull the hand away, and all this happens in a very short duration of time. So this action of pulling away the hand on touching a hot plate is called reflex action, and the pathway of information taken during a reflex action is called reflex arc. So this is the pathway taken by the information in a reflex arc. The stimulus in this case was heat. This was taken by our receptor, that is the skin of the hand, right? Through sensory neurons, they were information was taken to the spinal cord. Spinal cord sent the detailed command through motor neurons to the effector organs, which are the muscles of arm, and we will respond by lifting our hand. So this is basically what reflex arc is, right? Now talking about the second part of the central nervous system, that is the human brain. Very, very important. There are so many things we need to remember in human brain. So we have to use a lot of our brain to keep the information about brain in our brain. Just a joke. Continuing with the topic, human brain is the most important part of our CNS, that is the central nervous system, and it is considered to be the highest controlling center of our body, which helps in the process of control and coordination. Where exactly is human brain located? It is located in a hard bony box which is called cranium, or the skull, which is meant for the protection of human brain. For further protection, the brain is surrounded by three layers which are called meninges. They provide further protection to the brain. And there is also a fluid which is called CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid. This fluid acts as a shock absorber and protects the brain from any kind of mechanical injuries. Now, this brain is further divided into two equal halves, the right and the left, which are called cerebral hemispheres. The right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere controls the right side of the whole body. Now our brain is further subdivided into various parts. The first is the forebrain. This forebrain further consists of many things. Number one is cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It is the logical, thinking, memory, and reasoning part of the brain. This cerebrum is responsible for all the voluntary actions or the movements of the body done voluntarily. It receives information from all the sense organs of the body. So very important part. Apart from cerebrum, in forebrain we have got various lobes. What are these lobes? Parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, and olfactory lobe. Parietal lobe is for touch, smell, and temperature. Temporal lobe is for hearing. Occipital lobe is for sight, and olfactory lobe is for smell. Right? So this is our forebrain and the various constituents of forebrain. Next part of the brain is the midbrain. Now this midbrain is not further subdivided into any other part, and it controls the reflex movements of head, neck, and trunk in response to visual and auditory stimuli. It also controls the reflex movements of the eye muscles. It controls any kind of change in the pupil size and any kind of change of the eye lens. Very importantly, in midbrain, thalamus and hypothalamus, these are two glands which make a respiratory center that controls another gland, that is pituitary gland. So these are the functions of the midbrain. Next is our hindbrain. Now this hindbrain is further divided into three parts. One is cerebellum, next is pons, and the third one is medulla oblongata. Let us try to relate the functions of each and every one of these. Cerebellum helps in movements which are responsible for voluntary actions. It helps in maintaining the body posture and body balance. So all our smooth body movements like walking, dancing, riding the bicycle or balancing, they are all controlled by cerebellum. Pons regulate the rate of respiration in our body, and medulla oblongata is responsible for various involuntary actions which are not under our control, like heartbeat, blood circulation, like breathing, like the peristaltic movement of the alimentary canal, through which the food moves further, like coughing, sneezing, vomiting, swallowing. These are all the functions of medulla oblongata. So this is what our human brain is all about. Let us try to relate the human brain once again. Human brain is the highest controlling center of the body, main part of the central nervous system. It is kept in cranium, that is skull. For more protection, we have got meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid, which acts as a shock absorber. This brain is divided into two halves. These two halves are left hemisphere and right hemisphere, responsible for the opposite body organs. This brain is further divided into three divisions: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain consists of cerebrum and the various four lobes. Midbrain, no further division, and hindbrain is further divided into three main divisions, that is the cerebellum, pons, and medulla oblongata. These all the parts. Forebrain, we have got cerebrum, we have got the four lobes: parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, and olfactory lobe. So all these for performing different functions. We need to learn the functions performed by each one of the parts of the human brain. Now let us see what exactly our brain looks like. This is our human brain. The upper part, this is basically the cranium or the skull part, right? Then this is our forebrain and this is our cerebrum. In the middle, we have got midbrain, and at the end, we have got the hindbrain, which is further divided into pons, cerebellum, and medulla. Right? There are various glands: thymus, hypothalamus, and pituitary in the brain. And from the medulla, we have the spinal cord. Now, this spinal cord goes along till our backbone, and we know that in order to protect the spinal cord, we have got the vertebral column and the fluid CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. It is present in the spinal cord itself also, right? And from this spinal cord, there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves which arise and they go to all the parts of the body. Now we have got different nerves. This is what our spinal cord was, and there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. They are going from the spinal cord throughout the body, right? In brain, we have got cranial nerves. So these are the two type of nerves we have got: spinal nerves and cranial nerves, right? This is about our central nervous system. Now let us come to the hormonal system of our body, which is also equally important. Hormonal system, or this is also known as endocrine system, consists of various hormones. What are hormones? These are the chemical substances which are secreted by certain glands. Now these chemical substances which are secreted by these glands are put directly into the bloodstream, from where these hormones are carried by blood to the various parts where they are going to act. So the site of production and the site of action of the hormones is different, and these hormones help in the process of control and coordination in an organism. The glands which produce these hormones are called endocrine glands. These glands do not have a duct or a tube. They secrete their hormones or their products directly into the bloodstream. That is why they are called endocrine glands, and they are called ductless glands because they don't have any duct. We have to study about the various hormones. We will relate they are secreted by which gland and what are the various functions these hormones perform. So let us start up with the various endocrine glands. The first gland is hypothalamus. We will relate their location also. This hypothalamus is present in the brain and it secretes two hormones. One is the releasing hormone and another is the inhibitory hormone. And these two hormones together regulate the secretions of the pituitary gland, which is another gland. Let us relate what exactly pituitary gland is. This pituitary gland is also called the master gland of our body. It is located just below the brain and it is called master gland because it secretes many hormones like growth hormone, vasopressin, LH that is luteinizing hormone, FSH that is follicle stimulating hormone, prolactin, so many. Out of these, the growth hormone controls the development of bones and muscles, and this is because of this growth hormone that the body structure it increases in size. But its over secretion and under secretion both are problematic. How? Because if it is over secreted in our body, it causes a disease called gigantism, in which a person becomes a giant. And if it is secreted in lesser quantity, its under secretion also once again causes problem in the form of a disease called dwarfism, in which a person remains a dwarf because the growth hormone has not been secreted sufficiently, so the growth has not taken place properly, right? The next endocrine gland is our thyroid gland, quite important. This thyroid gland is attached to the windpipe in the neck in our body and it produces a hormone known as thyroxine. Now this thyroxine is responsible for controlling the rate of carbohydrate, fat and proteins metabolism in our body, right? Now this thyroxine, for making this thyroxine, iodine is necessary, and that is the reason why we eat iodized salt. If we do not take sufficient amount of iodine, then the deficiency of iodine will lead to a disease which is called goiter. This is swollen neck and it is caused due to the enlargement of the thyroid gland. This goiter is normally and maximum found in hilly areas where iodine is not found actually. In coastal areas, this goiter is very rare because in coastal areas, people normally eat seafood and the iodine goes into their body in sufficient quantity. Clear? Next endocrine gland that we'll be studying about is the parathyroid gland. Now this parathyroid gland, they are four in number, very small, and they are embedded in the thyroid gland in neck. These parathyroid glands, they secrete a hormone called parathormone which regulates the calcium and phosphate levels in the blood. Fine. The next endocrine glands are the thymus gland. They lie in the lower part of the neck and upper part of the chest, and the hormone which is secreted by thymus gland is the thymus hormone. It plays a very important role in developing the immune system of the body in the initial stages of life. Next are the pancreas. This is very important. Pancreas. These are the second largest gland of our body after liver. Liver is the largest. It is present just below the stomach and it secretes two hormones. One is insulin and another one is glucagon. The function of these two hormones is very important. insulin decreases the blood sugar level in our body, and if insulin is under secreted, it will cause a disease known as diabetes. And that is why the diabetic patients are given injections of insulin, because this external insulin is given to lower their blood sugar level. The glucagon acts just opposite to it. It increases the blood sugar level in the body. So we say that insulin and glucagon, they are antagonists. They work opposite to each other. Just as we have seen in the plant hormones, we have seen cytokinins and the ABA, abscisic acid. They worked opposite to each other. Similarly, the insulin and glucagon, they are antagonist in nature. Insulin, very important from exam point of view, you need to learn, right? Next, again, yet very important glands are the adrenal glands. There are two adrenal glands which are located on the top of each kidney. Their location also is very important. Now, these adrenal glands, they secrete a hormone called adrenaline. Now, this adrenaline is very important. It is also known as emergency hormone because it is secreted in emergency situations. It is also known as triple F hormone. These three F, they stand for fright, fight, or flight. Fright is when you are afraid. Fight is when you are excited to fight with someone, and flight is when you want to run away. In all these three emergency situations, adrenaline is secreted by the adrenal glands. Now, very important, you need to remember what exactly happens when adrenaline is secreted. This is secreted in the emergency situations. Why? In order to prepare the body. So what exactly it does is that this adrenaline increases the rate of breathing so that more oxygen can be taken in. Then it increases the rate of heartbeat so that this more oxygen which has been taken in should reach the body parts, the cells, right? Then it increases the rate of blood pressure for the speedy transportation of oxygen, and it increases the rate of respiration so that more energy is provided to the body in order to tackle the emergency situation. So adrenaline, very important. Clear? Next are testes. Now these testes are present only in males. There are total two testes. They are present in the lower abdominal cavity in a pouch-like structure called scrotum, or also known as scrotal sac. Now these testes, they make male sex hormone called testosterone, and they control, this testosterone is very important because it controls the development of male sex organs and secondary sexual male characteristics, like males have deeper voice, we have beard, mustaches, more body hair. These are all associated with male puberty, and all this is regulated by testosterone. These testes are also the primary reproductive organs in males because they produce the reproductive cells, that is the gametes, the male sex cells, which are sperms. They are also produced by testes. Clear? The next endocrine gland is ovaries. Now these ovaries are present only in females. Again, these are total two in number. They are also present in the lower abdominal cavity. These ovaries, the first role is that they are the primary reproductive organs in the females, which produce the reproductive sex cells, that is the gametes known as ovary, ova, or egg, right? And they also act as endocrine gland because they secrete two hormones, and these two hormones are estrogen and progesterone. Now, what are the functions of estrogen and progesterone? Estrogen controls the development of female secondary sexual characteristics at the time of puberty, like feminine voice, like soft skin, and development of the mammary glands, that is the breasts. And this progesterone hormone, it controls the uterus changes during the menstrual cycle, and it also helps in the maintenance of pregnancy. So these are all our endocrine glands. Let us try to brush up once again. What are the endocrine glands and what are their functions we studied about? Hypothalamus. Where is it present? In brain. Two hormones secreted by it. Which one? Releasing hormone and inhibitory hormones. And these two hormones, they together regulate the secretions of pituitary gland. Next comes the pituitary gland, which is also called the master gland of the body because it secretes many hormones. One of these that we need to relate is the growth hormone, which is for the development of bones and muscles. Its over secretion causes a disease called gigantism, and under secretion causes disease called dwarfism. Next is the thyroid gland, attached to the windpipe, produces a hormone known as thyroxine, which helps in the carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism. Iodine is required for it, and lack of iodine, deficiency of iodine, causes swollen neck, disease called goiter, due to the enlargement of thyroid gland. Next are parathyroid gland, present in the thyroid gland in neck, total 4 in number, secrete a hormone called parathormone, regulating the calcium and phosphate levels in the blood. Next are the thymus gland, present in the lower part of the neck and upper part of the chest, secreting thymus hormone, development of immune system. Pancreas, second largest gland of the body, secreting two hormones, insulin and glucagon. Insulin decreasing the blood sugar level, glucagon increasing the blood sugar level. Deficiency of insulin will cause diabetes because insulin is not being secreted in proper sufficient amount, due to which the blood sugar level will increase, and this is called diabetes. And the patients of diabetes are given insulin injections externally in order to decrease the blood sugar level, right? The next glands are the adrenal glands. They secrete a hormone known as adrenaline. There are total two adrenal glands present at the top of each kidney. Adrenaline, also known as triple F hormone, fright, fight, flight. It is also known as emergency hormone because these are all the emergency situations. And what are the changes which come after the secretion of adrenaline? Rate of breathing increases, rate of heartbeat increases, rate of blood pressure increases, rate of respiration increases. The whole purpose is to provide more energy so that we should be prepared to face any kind of emergency situation that we are in. Next are the testes, the male reproductive organs, also acting as endocrine glands. As male reproductive organs, they produce the male sex cells or the male gametes called sperms. And as a gland, they will secrete a hormone called testosterone, which is responsible for all the secondary sexual male characteristics. In females, we have got ovaries, the main reproductive organs. As reproductive organs, they produce ova or egg, which are the male sex cells or female sex cells or the female gametes. And as endocrine glands, they secrete two hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen, responsible for all the secondary female sexual characteristics, and progesterone, maintaining pregnancy and controlling the uterus changes during menstrual cycle or menstruation, right? Now let us see the position of all these hormones in the body. This is very important. You need to relate the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. They both are present in brain. Pituitary just below the brain. There is another gland called pineal gland. Now in the neck we have got thyroid gland, and in these thyroid we can see four dots, smaller dots. These are the parathyroid. Below the neck and upper chest we have got the thymus, Then we have got the pancreas, which is just below stomach, and very importantly, above both the kidneys, we have got these two adrenal glands. If talking about females, we'll have ovaries, which are present only in females in the lower abdominal cavity. And if it is male, then we have got testes, which is present only in males, again in the lower abdominal cavity. So out of ovaries and testes, only one will be present depending upon the organism is a male or female. Other all glands will be present in both of them. So this is about our hormonal control system, and these are the various hormones. You need to relate their position, their location, and the names of the hormones secreted by them, and what is the function performed by these hormones. Clear? Now these are the two systems in our body, the nervous system and the hormonal control system. Let us try to relate the differences between these two systems of control and coordination in animals. The nervous system is made up of neurons or the nerve cells, whereas the hormonal system is made up of secretory cells, that is the glands. This is the first point of difference between the nervous system and hormonal system. Then in the nervous system, the messages are transmitted in the form of electrical impulses, whereas in hormonal system, the messages are transmitted in the form of chemical substances called hormones. In nervous control system, the messages travel very quickly, but that is not so in the case of hormonal system. Here the messages travel very slowly. In nervous system, the effect of message usually lasts for a very short while, but in hormonal system, the effect of the message is for a longer duration. In nervous system, the messages are transmitted along nerve fibers, whereas in hormonal system, it is the function of the blood to carry these hormones from their site of production to the site of action. So these are the differences between nervous system and hormonal system, and this is all about our control and coordination in animals, as well as the whole chapter control and coordination. Let us revise it. Quick revision. What all we studied in this chapter. We studied about what exactly control coordination is. We studied about what is the need of control and coordination. Then we talked about control and coordination in the case of plants. There we saw that there were various phytohormones which were performing this function. We studied about the various phytohormones. What were they? They were auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, then abscisic acid, also known as negative hormone ABA, and ethene or ethylene. We saw the various functions of each and every phytohormone. Then we talked about the tropic movements or the tropism, that is the movement of parts of plants in response to a particular stimulus. We saw 5 types of tropism. One was the phototropism, that is in response to light. Then another was hydrotropism, in response to water. Geotropism, in response to gravity. Then we studied about the next tropism, which was thigmotropism, in response to pressure, and chemotropism, in response to chemicals. We saw how different parts of the plants show different type of tropic movements. Then we related about the nastic movements and the curvature movements. Then we also talked about photoperiods, photoperiodism. We talked about phytochrome, right? This was all about the control and coordination in plants. Now, when we studied about the animals, we said that in animals, we have got two different systems. One is the nervous system and another is the hormonal system. In nervous system, we have got three various divisions, that is central nervous system CNS, or the peripheral nervous system PNS, and the autonomic nervous system ANS. We studied the central nervous system in detail, in which we talked about the brain, we talked about spinal cord, we talked about nerves. These nerves are cranial nerves and spinal nerves. This is made up of neurons. We studied about the neuron with the help of a diagram, and we tried to relate that the dendrite part receive the information. That information from the dendrites is passed through the cell body to the axon and to the nerve endings, from where neurotransmitters will take them to the next dendrite of the next neuron through synapse, the microscopic gap between two neurons, right? These neurons we studied of various types, that is the sensory neurons, the motor neurons, and the relay neurons. Sensory neurons take the information from the sense organs to spinal cord and brain. Motor neurons, they take the information from spinal cord and brain to the effector organs. And the relay neurons, they transport information between brain and spinal cord. We studied about various receptor organs. 5 type of receptor organs we have got: photoreceptors, phonoreceptors, gustatory receptors, olfactory receptors, thermoreceptors. For light, for sound, for touch, for taste, and for temperature. Then we studied about spinal cord. The spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column and CSF, that is the cerebral spinal fluid. 31 pairs of spinal nerves arise from the spinal cord. Quite importantly, brain. Brain, highest controlling center of the body, and this brain is further divided into 3 parts, that is the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. We saw the various distinctions. Forebrain consists of cerebrum and 4 lobes: parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, and the frontal lobe. We saw the functions of each one of them. Midbrain, no further bifurcations. Hindbrain, further bifurcated into cerebellum, pons, and medulla oblongata. Once again, we saw all the functions. Brain protected by number 1, cranium, that is skull. Number 2, through the meninges, the 3 layers surrounding it. And number 3, the CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Right? Next, we talked about the hormonal system, and we have seen the 9 glands which are present in our body along with their secretions. Starting with hypothalamus, releasing 2 hormones, inhibitory and releasing hormone, controlling the secretions of pituitary. Pituitary, quite many hormones: prolactin, LH, FSH, vasopressin, and growth hormone. In growth hormone, oversubscription causing gigantism, undersecretion causes dwarfism. Then we studied about the thyroid. These 2 were present in brain, right? Thyroid is present in the neck, secretes thyroxine. Iodine required. Deficiency of iodine causes goiter, swollen neck, enlargement of thyroid gland. Thyroxine, useful in the carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism in the body. Then we have got the parathyroid gland, which are 4 in number, present in the thyroid gland in neck, secrete parathormone, regulating the calcium and phosphate levels in the body. Then we have got the thymus gland. This is present in the lower part of the neck, upper part of the chest, secreting a hormone called thymus. This thymus helps in building up the immunity. Then we studied about pancreas, second largest gland of the body, secreting 2 hormones, insulin and glucagon, antagonist in nature. Insulin decreasing the blood sugar level and glucagon increasing the blood sugar level. Deficiency of insulin causes diabetes. Patients of diabetes are given insulin to decrease the blood sugar level. Very important, adrenal glands, total 2, present on the top of each kidney. They secrete an emergency hormone called as adrenaline, also known as triple F hormone: fight, flight, fright. Increases the rate of breathing, rate of blood pressure, rate of heartbeat, rate of respiration to provide extra energy to combat the scary situations. Testes, male reproductive organs, present only in males. They produce sperms, the male gametes, and a hormone called testosterone, which is responsible for secondary sexual male characters. In females, we have got ovaries, the reproductive organs, secreting or producing ova or egg, which are the male sex cells or male gametes or male germ cells, female germ cells, and they are total two in number, and they produce hormones estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen responsible for all secondary sexual female characteristics, and progesterone maintaining the pregnancy and controlling the uterine changes during menstrual cycle. So this is a quick recap of the whole chapter. We have revised it twice. So I want you people to learn each and every detail. This is all about the chapter, and as per our experience together, you have seen that after completing the chapter, what we are supposed to do will be discussing all the questions in the next lecture. So you have to prepare with all the questions. You have to prepare, you have to learn the details, fine, which I'm sure that you'll be doing. And in the next lecture, we'll be discussing all the questions that we have already got in the various years in the examinations related to this topic and this chapter. So we'll meet you in the next class. Till then, prepare this chapter, learn it, and till then, take care of yourself. Have a great time ahead. Thank you so much for being with me.